Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily, R. Kelly's accusers take to the stand, saying they were sexually and physically abused before escaping. His defense not holding back on cross-examination.
What are you going to get from the witness?
You'll hear.
The R&B singer now on trial, and the final radio call for a police officer shot in Florida.
It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of Daytona Beach police officer Jason Rayner.
Prosecutors now say they plan to seek the death penalty for his accused killer. Plus,
did not kill Kathy.
Robert Durst is back on the stand for another round of cross-examination. The questions, the denials, and the jabs.
Sitting here, it's funny.
Law and Crime Daily, covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome, everybody, to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. In our studios, Brian Buckmeyer is on assignment at R. Kelly's trial, and with us, as always, is Terry Austin. One by one, women are taking the stand against the R&B singer, speaking out about decades of allegations of sex crimes. Now, cameras aren't allowed in the courtroom, but Brian is there to hear their stories. Brian, it's good to see you. Let's start. What did the first R. Kelly accuser testify to?
So Geronda Pace, the first accuser against R. Kelly, testified, just giving us a lot of background that she met R. Kelly first in when she was 14 at his 2008 Chicago trial, that she lied to get into the trial, saying that she was older than she actually was. Also talks about meeting him about 13 months later when she was 16, and that's when she was at his home, described the layout, this mirror room that she was in, and then spoke about that first encounter. Also spoke about another encounter when she showed up to his house and put on a bikini at the pool and walked back and forth at his request, taking off different pieces of article of clothing, and then later having sexual relations with him. One of the big points that came out as well was the fact that he had asked her to put her hair up in ponytails and dress like a Girl Scout prior to having sex, as well as wearing a specific type of heels that he allegedly liked her to wear during sexual acts.
Wow. And Brian, it's my understanding that Geronda Pace faced some very serious questioning on cross-examination by the defense. What did you say?
Absolutely. So they attacked her, kind of getting to the point of a few things. One, that she's trying to make money off of this. Of course, we know that she has a book that came out. I believe that she said that she made anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000 in that book. Also that she's made some statements on YouTube as well as television. And one part came out that was a little bit comical for us watching, where the defense was trying to point out a lie, where she said on April 1st of 2008, she was 14 when she first met R. Kelly. Then in May 2009, she was 16, and the defense was confused how a person can age in 2 years and 13 months, until she finally said, my birthday is April 19th, so 18 days before that I was 14, and then May of 2009 I was 16. That was a little intriguing for all of us, but also about this settlement, one of many that she had. The first one being that she signed a document along with her mother saying that she told R. Kelly she was 19 at the time, and signed a document to that point along with her mother. And also this issue of herpes came up on cross-examination. That was intriguing to say, because the defense got out that at one point in time, she may have commented to the government that R. Kelly mentioned, or at least alluded to, the fact that she had herpes, and in fact actually checked her to see if she did.
Yeah, I want to get into that, and there's clearly a lot more to unpack here. So, Brian, stand by. It's not just what's happening inside the courtroom, it's also what's happening outside, because fans have been showing their unwavering support to R. Kelly, but not everyone there is standing behind him.
I blame the parents because of, if they saying now that these alleged victims were underage, okay, where were you at? Why did you not know where your child was?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And where was the police report?
Move the mic back, please, sir. Thank you.
This is how much fan I am of Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly, to have tattoos put on me with his name.
Unfortunately, with his celebritydom, I'm feeling he might get a slap on the wrist. And parents, managers, bodyguards, everyone involved, producers who were in the studios when this happened, should be charged with something. You know, a lot has gone on, and these children, they were children at the time. I mean, I've seen photographs, it's been all over the news. I've seen the documentary produced by Oprah Winfrey, and it's so much evidence, but I really feel that he won't get convicted.
Okay, a lot of thoughts there. Terry, let me bring in, how do these allegations by Geronda Pace fit into the racketeering charge? What are the underlying acts here?
You know, under the indictment, the underlying acts are the Mann Act, saying that essentially she was transported and she was used for sexual exploitation. So the indictment talks about the fact that in July 2015, she was transported to Kelly by actually some of the employees. Brian mentioned that she met Kelly earlier, but then a year later, she actually went and she had sex with him. And so she's saying that she was obviously coerced, that she was taken there. It was against her will. She, as we know, are talking about herpes while she's on the stand. So that is the actual, allegation under the indictment for the Mann Act, 2 acts, the transporting and the sexual coercion.
Yeah, and the Mann Act, obviously, a part of that racketeering charge. But Brian, you had mentioned herpes. Terry just mentioned as well. How exactly did that play out for Pace? Well, you should expand upon that.
Yeah. So it brought up, because remember, she's bringing up the herpes allegations to try and connect to another Jane Doe who's going to probably testify later on. And the issue is not necessarily just passing on the herpes, but not informing the individual, this being Geronda Pace, that R. Kelly had herpes beforehand. Now, first it came up by the prosecution and the direct, but the defense cross-examined her with a statement that she had given to the government at one of the interviews that R. Kelly had brought up the fact that herpes had been passing around his group, not necessarily saying that he had it, but that he wanted to check her. Now, it was kind of unclear whether or not he said that if someone asked, you could tell people that I had herpes, or that you could not. But the issue being that he has to inform her somewhat of herpes. It kind of muddied the waters there for the prosecution.
Who would have thought that this would be such a major piece of evidence, but it really is. And we're going to talk more about R. Kelly, so everybody stand by on that. But turning now to more top legal news, actress Amber Heard lost her bid to dismiss a lawsuit filed against her by her ex, Johnny Depp. Now, Depp is suing his former wife in a Virginia court. The Pirates of the Caribbean actor is claiming that Heard defamed him. Heard has repeatedly said publicly that Depp was physically abusive during their marriage, in fact, writing in an op-ed in the Washington Post in 2018 that she was a victim of domestic violence. Now, Heard never named Depp in that article specifically, but according to Depp's lawsuit, it relied on the central premise that Depp, quote, perpetrated domestic violence against her. Depp is suing her for $50 million. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, the tribute that officers are paying to one of their own fallen on duty. But first, more on R. Kelly, how a TV series that blew the lid on sex crimes allegations could be impacting his criminal trial. Our legal analysis next.
Hi, this is Dan Abrams with exciting news for all of our Law and Crime followers on YouTube. You can now get the live Law and Crime Network with YouTubeTV for all of your daily live trial coverage, legal news, expert analysis, and original true crime programs. Subscribe to YouTubeTV today and then locate Law and Crime in the channel guide. And for only $1.99 a month, you can add the network to your bundle. Watch Law and Crime every day with YouTubeTV. We put you in the jury box.
Welcome back, everybody. Back now to the trial of R. Kelly, where explosive testimony is unfolding against the R&B singer. We now know that Jane Doe number 4 is the woman who's come forward as Geronda Pace. R. Kelly is facing a slew of charges in connection to Pace's accusations. Prosecutors are accusing the singer of violating the Mann Act and racketeering. They say that he transported her across state lines and coerced and enticed her into having sex with him when she was a minor. Now, Pace says R. Kelly was both physically and psychologically abusive, making her believe that if she didn't follow his commands, she could face serious harm. She described one of those threats on the Lifetime docuseries Surviving R. Kelly.
I was a part of a suicide pact. If he was to go to jail, I was supposed to kill myself. And I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional.
Okay, now, Brian, it's my understanding that she hasn't testified about this suicide pact, but, right, she did testify about her diary, and is the show playing a role in this trial as well?
So the show is not specifically playing a role in the trial, but it does come up from time to time. I think the defense is trying to make the argument that she's somehow profiting from the fame or infamy, depending on who you ask, of being with R. Kelly. Now, to the diary, the prosecution brought up the diary to try to pinpoint not only the allegations of R. Kelly abusing her on that day, but also the day, and specifically read one part of the diary that I'm going to try to quote as best as I can. Quote, "I went to Rob's house and Rob called me a silly curse word. Rob slapped me 3 times. He said if I lied to him again, it's not going to be an open hand next time. He spit in my face and in my mouth. He choked me during an argument. I had sex with him, had oral sex with him. Then I became fed up and I went home and confessed." Now that came out and that was shocking to everyone. The defense, to their some credit, because they are, I think, doing at least some bit of a good job in painting her as a stalker or a groupie based on her answers in the testimony, said that this journal entry was and this journal in its entirety was only made after she met with the lawyers and was trying to remember the past, not contemporaneously. So really back and forth, blow for blow, in terms of the arguments presented by either side.
Terry, obviously the prosecution believes that she has some compelling testimony. When you talk about the order of witnesses, is that why she was the first? Is that why strategically put her first?
I think that it was a strategic move. She has some very strong evidence here, not the least of which is the fact that she saved the semen from when they had that sexual encounter. It's on that blue shirt she talked about. I think also because she was very young when she first met him, and I think that has an impact on the jury. She's also very credible on the stand. The fact that she cried when she was reading the diary or the journal entries, I think that is going to have an impact on the jury as well. And, you know, I think that she was 9 months pregnant. Sometimes it's logistics, and they may have wanted to get her in and get her out before she has her baby.
Yeah, that's just a practical concern. Brian, thank you so much. Great reporting as always on this case, and we're going to talk more about it, obviously, as this trial progresses. But switching gears, it's time to check in with Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross.
Coming up this week on Brian Ross Investigates, another look at a still unfolding spy mystery. Are the Russians targeting American CIA officers and diplomats with a mystery weapon that emits a powerful high-energy wave that can affect the brain? It's called the Havana Syndrome, and we'll talk with one of the Americans who says he was targeted.
December of 2017, I woke up in the middle of the night in a Moscow hotel, in a 5-star hotel just 2 blocks from the U.S. Embassy, and I woke up with an incredible case of vertigo. Tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears, splitting headache. I felt like physically sick.
That's coming up this week on Brian Ross Investigates on the Law&Crime Trial Network.
All right, great stuff from Brian Ross. And coming up here on Law&Crime Daily, Robert Durst under pressure. Why the real estate heir is now blaming his wife's disappearance on her alleged drug use. Plus, captured after a multi-state manhunt. The alleged shooter could now face the highest penalty, the new charges after the wounded officer succumbs to his injuries. Welcome back. Prosecutors in Florida have announced they plan to seek the death penalty for a man accused of shooting an officer. Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy's here to explain why Otha Wallace's charges have now been upgraded. Hi, Anjanette.
Hey, Jesse. Officer Jason Rayner sadly passed away on Tuesday evening, 2 months after he was shot. The man accused of firing that fatal shot could get the death penalty if he is convicted. Now, a massive manhunt led officials to Otha Wallace. He was hiding in a treehouse in Georgia in June. The 29-year-old ran after police said he shot Officer Rayner in the face when the officer was questioning him at his vehicle. The treehouse where Wallace was found is reportedly affiliated with a Black nationalist paramilitary organization. Wallace appeared at a hearing this week where he said he wants to hire private counsel.
Mr. Wallace, is it your intention to try to hire private counsel, or do you want to have the public defender's office represent you?
I would rather represent me until
You want the public defender's represent you?
I can hire private counsel.
Well, for right now, I'll appoint their office. Obviously, you'll have to fill out a financial affidavit to make sure you do qualify, but for right now, I'll appoint you.
Now, what you heard there was Wallace saying that he wants to hire his own private attorney. After Officer Rayner died, the charges against Wallace were upgraded to first-degree murder, and prosecutors are going to seek the death penalty. Jesse?
Thanks, Anjanette. Terry, the defendant, has this affiliation, as Anjanette said, with this paramilitary organization. How do you think that could be used against him at an eventual trial?
I think the prosecution is going to try to say that Wallace hated all authority, he hated police, this is why he did what he did. And the name of the coalition itself, No Effing Around Coalition, that really is an offensive name. And it says that its whole mission is to protect and liberate Black Americans. So I think essentially one of the things that the prosecution is really going to try to do is to show that this defendant has this background, he has this affiliation, and he basically is acting out his hatred, and that's the motive behind the crime.
And Jeanette, this is such a sad case. What did Officer Rayner's colleagues do to honor him after he passed away?
Well, Jesse, as we've seen so many times before, there really is an outpouring from the law enforcement community when one of their own dies in the line of duty. And this time was no different. There were officers from several agencies that lined a procession route and really led and followed Officer Rayner's body from the hospital to the funeral home. Several agencies taking part, as I mentioned, including the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. So it was really quite a sight to see all of those cars lined up and the police officers saluting him for one of his final rides as they prepare for his funeral.
It's always tough to cover these kinds of cases, and this is exactly that kind of case, but now it seems that they're trying to find the ultimate penalty against the man that they say committed this atrocity. And Jeanette Levy, thank you so much for reporting on this really tough case.
No problem.
When we come back, Robert Durst in his own defense. Is he lying on the witness stand, or is this untold story really what explains his wife's 1982 disappearance? Inside that California courtroom, next. Welcome back, everybody. The cross-examination of Robert Durst is continuing, and prosecutors are not holding anything back. Robert Durst is on trial for the murder of his best friend, Susan Berman. The real estate heir is accused of killing Berman because she allegedly had information about Durst's missing wife, Kathy, a death that Durst is also accused of. On the stand during direct, Durst alluded to the fact that Kathy could have disappeared because of her alleged drug use. But prosecutor John Lewin believes that's a tale that Durst made up to cover for his wife's murder.
It's true, Mr. Durst, that this cocaine addiction narrative, this is a concoction you dreamed up, lied up, manufactured in order to explain the disappearance of your wife, Kathy, who you killed.
Objection. Overruled.
Did not kill Kathy. I did not dream up that she was doing too much cocaine.
And the testimony escalated from there, with Durst claiming that Kathy was enrolled in a drug rehab at the very same hospital that she was applying to for her residency for when she graduated med school. The prosecution, however, didn't buy it.
Mr. Durst, look what's number one. The program she wants to go to is Lenox Hill Hospital.
Oh, she was already there.
Yes, as a drug addict patient? Let me understand this. I guess the interview would have gone something like this. Dr. Durst, what makes you position that your wife chose Lenox Hill Hospital to go to rehab when that was going to be the #1 program she wanted to match for her residency? Does that make sense to you at all?
I think I need to congratulate you. You have just broken your personal record. You have filled up 18 lines on my tablet.
And I want to congratulate you. You set the perjury record.
Oh boy. Terry, you know, Lewin made this great point about Kathy not wanting to work at the same hospital where she attended rehab. So what did you think about Durst's explanation?
You know, Durst was being very arrogant there, and I don't think it came across well with the jury. They went back and forth. Of course, Lewin is trying to say she would never apply to do a medical residency anywhere that she was doing a drug rehab. And his claim is basically that Durst is making this up. She did not have a cocaine problem, and Durst is just basically saying that this is the reason she left, because of the drugs. And I think his explanation was that Lenox Hill is a great hospital. It's in a rich area, and it's not a big problem if a celebrity goes to that hospital. And of course, they work there and they had a drug rehab there. But I think the jury is going to see straight through that. I think they are listening to what Lewin is saying here. I think it's an excellent, excellent point. Durst is absolutely making up this cocaine issue. We know for a fact from the medical records that she performed well in school, and there's no evidence here that she had a rehab program. So I definitely think that Lewin got the better end of that argument.
Terry, let me ask you real quick, this combative back and forth, is it possible, is it making Durst look sympathetic at all?
Maybe a little bit. Some people might think that Lewin is beating him up, but I think the fact that we're seeing Durst say things like we just heard in that clip where he talks about the fact that it was 18 lines long. That's not necessary, and I think the jury's not going to like that at all.
Oh boy, I can't wait to see that jury deliberation. What a case, what a case. Terry Austin, thank you so much for everything. And everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We're going to see you next time as we discuss justice in America and cover the top cases that are happening across this country. We'll see you next time here on Law and Crime Daily.